New Year's Eve has always meant something to me. Call it sentimental, but I've always believed how you start a year sets the tone for the rest of it. That's probably why, even now, I can't shake the feeling that this all began unraveling the night the calendar turned. She said it was just a work party, a casual mixer with clients and vendors, something her firm did every year. Babe, you'd be bored out of your mind, she told me, half laughing while applying lipstick in the hallway mirror. It's just spreadsheets in heels. I wanted to believe her. Really, I did. But the way she looked in that dress, it didn't match the tone of her words. It was new, emerald green, silky, and snug in a way that made her look like she stepped out of a magazine. Her makeup was a little bolder than usual. She wore her hair swept up, a few curled strands falling loose around her cheekbones like she planned it for effect. I told her she looked beautiful. She smiled like that was the point. Then she said, "Don't wait up," kissed me quickly, and left, heels clicking out the front door. The silence that followed was the kind that feels personal, not peaceful. It wasn't the first time something felt off. The shifts in her were gradual, like watching a tide go out an inch at a time. First, it was subtle, new clothes because of work. Evening plans she couldn't quite explain, her phone always face down or on silent. She had started using AirPods all the time, even while folding laundry or cooking. And when I asked her who she was texting at 11 p.m., she'd say, "Just people from the office," and change the subject. I told myself not to overthink it. We were both busy. People change. Marriages go through phases. But deep down, something had started buzzing in my gut. That quiet hum of unease that only gets louder the more you try to ignore it. So that night, while the rest of the world was lining up champagne glasses and prepping for midnight kisses, I sat on the couch, half watching a movie and half staring at the door she'd walked out of. Every few minutes, I glanced at my phone. Nothing. At 10:43, I finally caved and looked up the address she'd mentioned. Some rooftop bar downtown, hosted by a corporate sponsor I recognized from her firm's holiday gala last year. Nothing shady, nothing out of place. But I couldn't let it go. I told myself I was just going to check in, surprise her, maybe even bring her home early and share a quiet toast, just the two of us. That's what I told myself. But if I'm being honest, I needed to see what she looked like when she wasn't performing for me. I needed to see who she was when she didn't know I was watching. Traffic was light. The streets were glowing with string lights and late-night food trucks. The kind of night that should have felt electric. Instead, I felt like I was driving towards something I couldn't name. Some version of my life that already didn't belong to me. I parked a block away. As I walked toward the entrance, the sound of music and laughter drifted down from the rooftop, carried on cold December air. I checked in at the front desk, gave them her name, and was waved through without a second glance. Apparently, spouses were allowed, or at least not banned. The elevator ride felt endless. My reflection stared back at me from the brushed metal walls, eyes tired, shoulders tense. When the doors opened, I stepped out into warm air and a scene that hit me like a slow punch. The rooftop was alive with music, glitter, laughter, and city lights. People held glasses of champagne, leaning close to talk over the music, couples laughing as they shared private jokes and clinked glasses under twinkling lights. And then I saw her. She was standing in the middle of it all. Not tucked away in a corner with a group of coworkers like I'd imagined. No, she was at the center, like she belonged to the night itself. That dress, the one I had only seen from our hallway, looked even more daring under the lights. She had taken off her coat, revealing bare shoulders and the soft curve of her back. But what froze me wasn't just how beautiful she looked. It was who she was looking at. There was a man next to her, tall, sharp suit, confident grin. His posture was too familiar. The way he leaned toward her, his hand resting just a little too comfortably on the back of her chair. His smile just a little too pleased with himself. He said something, and she laughed. Really laughed, that open laugh she hadn't used around me in months. Then she turned her head slightly and saw me. Our eyes locked across the room. She blinked, her smile faltering for half a second. And then it came right back, just as wide, only now aimed directly at me. She turned back to the man, said something, And this is the part that burned. Raised her glass. Clink. She clinked it against his. Took a sip, still smiling. She didn't excuse herself. Didn't come over. Didn't even wave. She just turned back to him like I wasn't there. I stood frozen for a few seconds too long, not quite sure what I'd walked into or what I was supposed to do now that I was in it. Eventually, I moved, grabbed a drink from a passing tray and leaned against the far railing, trying to look casual while the weight in my chest grew heavier. At midnight, the fireworks went off. The crowd counted down. People kissed. And across the rooftop, my wife toasted another man. When I got home that night, well after she did, by the way, I found her curled up on the couch, already changed into pajamas. Hair pulled back. No trace of the woman I'd seen on that rooftop. Just a soft, half-guilty smile when she looked up. "You okay?" she asked. "You look upset." I said nothing at first. Just dropped my keys on the counter and tried to gather the right words. "I saw you tonight," I said finally. "At the party." She blinked. "You came? Why would you?" "I wanted to surprise you." I cut in. Guess the surprise was on me. There was a beat of silence. Then she laughed, short, defensive. "Oh my God, are you serious right now?" she said. "You're jealous." "Should I not be?" "Jesus, it was a party. You show up unannounced and then get upset because I was having a good time? That's insane." I stared at her, my jaw clenched. "You didn't even flinch when you saw me. You just kept talking to him, laughing with him, like I wasn't even there." She rolled her eyes, pulling the blanket tighter around her. "Because I didn't want to make a scene, Mark. I was trying to keep the night normal. God, you always twist things. I swear, sometimes I think you want there to be something wrong." That's when it hit me. The problem, according to her, wasn't her behavior. It was my presence, my questions, my suspicions, my unwillingness to pretend I hadn't just seen her gazing at another man like he was the only person who mattered in the world. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, watching shadows move across the room as if something in the house had shifted permanently. And maybe it had, because after that night, I couldn't unsee it. That look on her face, that glass raised in quiet defiance, the way she made me feel like the intruder in a life I helped build. Something broke in me, not loud, not dramatic, just broke, like a hinge coming loose on a door you didn't know had been hanging for years. I didn't say much the next morning. She was in the kitchen, humming along to some lo-fi playlist, frying eggs like she hadn't detonated something between us the night before. I watched her from the doorway, wondering if she felt even a flicker of guilt, if she knew what that clink of the glass had done to me, if she cared. She turned and smiled like nothing happened. "Coffee?" I nodded, sat down, and tried to play normal, or at least whatever version of normal we were pretending to be now. But while she talked about her meetings, her calendar, her next Pilates class, I wasn't listening. My mind had already gone somewhere else. It was like my brain had opened a file drawer labeled suspicious behavior. And suddenly, I couldn't close it. It started with the little things months ago. I remember the first time I noticed her leaving her phone face down at dinner. It was a habit she never had before. At first, I thought nothing of it. Maybe she didn't want distractions. Seemed polite, actually. But then she started doing it all the time. Everywhere. Kitchen, couch, even in bed. And when it buzzed, she'd tilt the screen away and say, "Just work." Always that, "just work." She also stopped leaving her keys on the hook by the door. That was her thing. "Everything has a place," she used to say. And yet now, I'd find her purse tucked into the hall closet, her keys already zipped inside. Once I joked that she was hiding them from me. She laughed and said, "You're paranoid." Like it was some charming quirk of mine. It wasn't just that. She started making plans without including me. "Oh, I'm getting dinner with the girls tonight," she'd say as she slipped on her shoes. No heads up, no invite, just a wave on her way out the door. And the thing is, it wasn't the going out that bothered me. It was the sudden shift. Like home had become a pit stop, not a destination. Like I wasn't part of her life anymore, just a spectator in it. Then came the new wardrobe. She said it was for work. The firm's rebranding. I've got to look sharp, she said, twirling in front of the mirror in a fitted blazer and heels she'd never worn before. I told her she looked amazing. She said thanks, kissed my cheek, and left with a perfume trail I didn't recognize. That smell, it lingered longer than it should have. She started taking longer showers. I don't mean 10 minutes instead of 5. I mean full spa sessions, sometimes at midnight. Once, I walked by and heard her laughing behind the door. She came out with a towel wrapped around her hair, eyes bright, cheeks flushed. "What's funny?" I asked. She paused. "Oh, just a meme someone sent." I believed her. Back then, I still wanted to. I didn't snoop. I didn't check her phone. I didn't ask who someone was. But it never stopped. That glow after private moments. That secrecy that sat between us like a wall I couldn't climb. And every time I questioned it, she'd pivot. Accuse me of being clingy, insecure, controlling. She we asterisk p asterisk nized my loyalty. Made me doubt my instincts. Turned concern into weakness. And then there were the silences, not the comfortable kind we used to share. Like when we'd sit on the couch with our legs touching, watching a movie we'd seen 3 times. No, these were the hollow ones. The silences that stretched between us at dinner, in bed, in the car. Like she had nothing left to say. Or worse. She was talking to someone else in her head, in her texts behind a screen I couldn't see. I remember one night she came home and didn't even take off her shoes. Just walked past me, straight to the bedroom. When I followed, she was already in bed, back turned. "Everything okay?" I asked. She didn't look at me. "Yeah, just tired." That was her line for everything. Just tired. It became her excuse for why we weren't int asterisk mate anymore. Why she didn't want to talk. Why she stopped doing the little things, the forehead kisses, the goodnight texts when she was out, the way she used to bring me coffee just the way I liked it without asking. I started feeling like a roommate, someone she tolerated, someone who didn't get the version of her she gave to the world. Then came the passwords. She changed her phone passcode. I only noticed because I saw her unlock it at an angle one morning, and the pattern was different. When I asked about it, she said she had to update it for security reasons. Said IT made everyone do it at work. That didn't make sense. She wasn't in tech. She was in PR. But I let it slide. Again. God, I hate how many times I let it slide. One night, I tried to talk about our future. Maybe planning a trip, maybe even the baby conversations we used to have before things got weird. She gave me that distracted look. The one where her body's in the room but her mind's not. "Can we not do this right now?" she said. "I'm just dealing with a lot." I asked her what a lot meant. She sighed like I was pressuring her. "You always do this," she said. "You act like I owe you a full report every time I have a bad day." I didn't say it then, but yes, when you're married, you do owe each other that. Not control, not surveillance, but presence. Partnership. Trust. But she made me feel like asking for connection was a burden. And I carried that shame like it was mine. I started going through the motions, waking up, going to work, coming home to someone who didn't seem to notice I was even there. I felt like a ghost in my own house. Walking on eggshells around a woman who once held my face in her hands and told me I was everything she ever wanted. Then came the night I asked her to leave a spare key for the dog walker. She used to always keep one under the mat or in the lockbox. But this time she said she forgot. "I'll just meet them," she said. That made no sense. She had a meeting that morning. But she insisted. Said it was easier that way. I realized then that she didn't want anyone coming to the house when she wasn't there. Not even someone we'd known for years. Not even someone I had hired. It was subtle. But it was a boundary shift. And boundaries don't shift for no reason. That was the week I started keeping a journal. Nothing formal, just notes in my phone. Dates. Times. Things she said. Places she said she'd be. Places she didn't end up. I wasn't trying to build a case, not at first. I just needed something to look back on. Some kind of record to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. Because that's what it felt like. Every day I was gaslit just enough to doubt myself, but not enough to feel certain. It was like being underwater with just enough air to survive, but never enough to breathe. After the party, though, Everything clicked. Seeing her with him wasn't just a moment of betrayal. It was the missing piece. The center of the puzzle I'd been too afraid to assemble. Suddenly, everything made sense. The late nights, the secrets, the emotional vacancy, the quiet contempt in her voice when I tried to be close to her. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being paranoid. She was already gone. Long before that rooftop clink. Long before she stopped looking me in the eye. Long before I started questioning who I even was in this marriage. She left piece by piece, day by day, lie by lie, and I was just too in love to see it happening in real time. It wasn't a single moment. It was a slow erosion, a quiet demolition disguised as distance. And by the time I noticed the foundation was gone, the whole damn thing had already collapsed. I didn't set out to find proof. Not really. There's a difference between suspicion and certainty, a quiet chasm most people are too afraid to cross. Once you confirm it, you can't unknow it. You can't wake up tomorrow and pretend you're not sleeping beside a stranger. But the thing about lies is they rot. They leave a smell behind. And once you smell it, you can't go back to clean air. You have to track it to the source. For me, the smell came in the form of an old phone. She had upgraded about 2 months earlier, something about needing better camera quality for client content. She didn't even ask me if I wanted the upgrade too, which was weird, since we used to always sync our plans. I figured whatever, it was her money, her phone. She left the old one in the junk drawer in the kitchen. Said she'd wipe it eventually. Weeks went by. She forgot. I didn't. One night, after she'd gone to bed early. Again, I was putting away some receipts and saw it sitting there under a pack of batteries and a takeout menu. I stared at it for a long minute. Just a black slab of plastic and glass. Harmless, if not for the buzzing it had once carried. I picked it up. It still had charge. I don't know what I expected, maybe a lock screen or a wipe device. But it opened. No passcode. Just the default wallpaper and a handful of apps still logged in. I sat down at the kitchen table, every muscle in my body stiff with hesitation. I gave her 100 chances to tell me the truth. This was just her silence catching up. First, I checked the messages. Most of it had already been cleaned out. Nothing incriminating. But there was something she missed. A synced backup to her old group chat with her friends. I opened the app, half expecting nothing. I was wrong. The group name was Wine Not Wineglass. A thread with her closest work friends. The kind of group chat where girls posted memes, vented about deadlines, shared gossip. Except this wasn't just gossip. This was planning. Scrolling back, I found the entire thread from December. There it was. Talk of the New Year's Eve party. Screensh *TS of the invitation. A stream of mirror selfies with captions like, "Which one says single but subtle?" One of her friends replied, "Emerald. Duh. You'll have him drooling." Another chimed in, "If you don't come back with a number, we're unfriending you." And then the one that did it. My wife's reply, just days before the party. "Trust me, I'm not coming back alone." I read that line 5 times, hoping I'd misread it. I hadn't. There were more messages. Ones about making sure he doesn't find out. Vague references to timing, cover stories, and keeping it quiet. They weren't careful. They weren't nervous. They were smug, laughing, flirting with the idea of betrayal like it was a game. Then I found the photo. A picture taken right before she left that night. Her in that dress. The green one I now can't see without feeling nauseous. Captioned, "Wish me luck." And they did. All of them. Not one of them told her to stop. Not one said, "Don't do this to your husband." Not one reminded her of me. In that entire thread, I didn't exist. I was an obstacle to be avoided. A footnote in a life she had outgrown. I closed the app, breathing hard. My hands were cold. My chest hurt in that deep, quiet way that feels permanent. But I wasn't done. There was one more folder synced, her cloud gallery. She hadn't logged out of that either. Most of it was harmless. Work screensh *TS, photos of our dog, selfies from hotel rooms she'd claimed were client overnights. Then I saw a folder marked hidden. It was empty, or at least it looked that way. But when I checked the recently deleted section, There were 3 videos. The thumbnails were blurry. Dim lighting, a bar, movement, faces half visible. But one was clearer than the others. Her in that green dress, spinning under colored lights. She didn't look drunk. She looked alive. And she wasn't alone. He was behind her, the same guy from the rooftop. Tall, light beard, dressed like he knew he looked good. His hands were on her waist. Not casually. Not professionally. And mately. In the clip, he pulled her closer. She leaned back into him. No hesitation. No second-guessing. It wasn't dancing. It was possession. I pressed play, hoping it wouldn't work. It did. The video was short, maybe 10 seconds. But it felt like watching my marriage break in real time. Her smile. His mouth near her ear. Her hand reaching back, resting on his thigh. At the end, she turned, leaned up, and whispered something into his ear. And then she kissed his neck. That was it. No room for denial. No ambiguity. No, it's just a friend, or you're overreacting. No, I didn't mean for it to happen. It had already happened. I sat there in the dark kitchen, that phone glowing in my palm like a confession. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I felt this cold clarity settle over me, like ice water in my lungs. I had spent months wondering if I was the problem, if I was boring, if I'd let myself go, if I'd stopped trying, if I'd driven her away. But this wasn't a slip. It wasn't a mistake. It was planned. Voted on in group chat like a prom dress. Strategized like a heist. Joked about with champagne and emojis. I wasn't her husband. I was the inconvenience she was trying to work around. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up replaying the video, pausing on frames where she looked happiest. Not because I wanted to torture myself, but because I needed to accept that this was real. That the woman I married had become someone who could do this and laugh about it afterward. I thought about confronting her. But what would I say? I already knew what she'd do. She'd minimize, cry, blame me, call it emotional confusion. Say things like, I was in a dark place, or you weren't listening, or the one I feared most. It didn't mean anything, because if it did mean something, that was worse. And if it didn't, that was worse too. Either way, I'd already lost her. I didn't touch the phone after that. Just placed it back where I found it. Same angle, same drawer. Like I hadn't cracked the lock on a safe I was never supposed to open. The next morning, I watched her get ready. Same robe. Same mascara routine. Same breakfast order. She asked if I needed anything from the store later. I said no. She kissed my cheek. Told me to have a good one. I looked at her and said, you too. And as she walked out the door, humming to herself, purse over her shoulder, heels clicking toward whatever lie she'd planned next, I knew something she didn't. I knew the truth. And that's when the crying started. Not because I loved her, though I did. Not because she betrayed me, though she had. I cried because I finally saw her. For the first time. Without illusion. Without the version of her I had built in my head. Without the story I'd told myself about who we were. I saw her. And she wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she never was. The day after I found the video, I couldn't even look at her. She sat across from me at the breakfast table, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to notice I was watching her. She had that ease, that effortless mask she wore when she knew she was being observed. I used to find it charming. Now it made my stomach turn. I played my part too. Ate my toast. Sipped my coffee. Nodded when she mentioned her upcoming meetings. But behind my eyes, I wasn't there. I was still in that dark kitchen, staring at that old phone screen, watching her melt into someone else's arms like I never existed. I kept thinking, how do people do this? How do they sit across from someone they've shattered and smile like nothing happened? I didn't confront her that day, or the next. Something in me had shifted, not broken but sharpened. The kind of clarity that comes after the fog burns off. I realized I had already passed the point of heartbreak. This wasn't about getting answers anymore. This wasn't about saving anything. It was about control. Because for the first time in weeks, I had something she didn't. The truth. And then something happened that made everything more complicated, more dangerous. 3 days after I found the video, she got an envelope in the mail. No return address. I watched her open it in the hallway. Her fingers trembled before she even got it halfway open. She didn't know I was watching from the stairs. Inside was a USB drive. No note. No context. Just the drive. She stood frozen for a minute, then marched into her office and slammed the door. 5 minutes later, I heard the muffled thud of something hitting the floor. Then silence. Later, when I walked by, the door was ajar. She was sitting on the floor, head in her hands, the empty envelope beside her. I didn't say a word. I just walked past like I hadn't seen the color drain from her face. I knew that look. It was the same one I wore when I watched the video for the first time. Except she wasn't shocked by what she saw. She was shocked someone else had it. That night, after she finally passed out on the couch, wine glass still half full, phone clutched like a lifeline, I checked her laptop. She'd left it open. The USB drive was still connected. Contained a single video file. Different angle. Better quality. sh*t from the far end of the club, probably security footage, judging by the grain and timestamp. It showed her and the same man from New Year's Eve. Same dress. Same moves. Only this time, there was no crowd blocking the view. No shaky camera phone to blame. This was clean. She was in his lap. His hand was under her dress. And for a moment, just a second, she looked directly at the camera. I don't know if she saw it. I don't think she did. But her face was visible. Clear as day. Her smile. Her posture. Her intention. This wasn't a bad decision. This wasn't confusion. It was ownership. The file name wasn't subtle either. It was labeled, "Do you want this to stay private?" That's when it hit me. Someone else had the original. Someone else had been watching. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was bigger, messier, riskier. And suddenly, I wasn't the only one holding leverage. I didn't know who sent it, but based on the envelope and the tone, it wasn't a friend. This was a warning, a threat. Someone with access to security footage or at least a copy of it. Someone who wanted her to know she was exposed. Not just emotionally, but professionally, legally. She worked in PR. Image was everything. Her firm handled politicians, corporate branding, crisis response. She was the one who cleaned up messes for other people. Now she was the mess. The irony wasn't lost on me. The next morning, she didn't say much. Her phone never left her hand. She kept refreshing her email, eyes darting like she was waiting for something to blow up, and she didn't go into the office. Said she had a migraine. Stayed in the bedroom all day with the curtains drawn. She didn't bring up the USB. Didn't ask me if I'd seen it, which told me one thing. She knew she couldn't lie anymore, and she didn't want to know how much I knew. That would force her to face it. I waited, watched, and then, 2 nights later, her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. I don't usually check her messages. Not because I think it's sacred, not anymore, but because I wanted her to dig her own grave. But this one flashed up on the lock screen and caught my eye. It was from an unknown number. "We should talk before your husband does." That was all. 10 words. Enough to flip the entire script. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't understand it, but because I did. Whoever this was, they thought I was the one holding the match over her career. They didn't know about the backup phone, or the group chat, or the folder she never wiped. They thought I was the wild card, the threat. They weren't wrong, but I wasn't the only one anymore. I felt this strange chill move through me. Not anger, not grief, just strategy. Because suddenly, she was cornered. Not just by me, not just by her own guilt, but by someone on the outside. Someone who saw an opportunity. A client? A coworker? Someone at the party? Someone who got access to the footage and realized who she was? It didn't matter. What mattered was this: her betrayal wasn't just a wound now. It was a liability. She wasn't the one in control. She was being hunted, professionally, maybe even legally. And for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I felt clear. The affair wasn't just a secret anymore. It was a we*P*N. A loaded G*N pointed in every direction. At our marriage. At her job. At whoever the guy in the video was. At whatever connections they were trying to keep quiet. I don't know what scared her more, that I knew or that someone else did. But over the next few days, I watched her unravel. She stopped sleeping, stopped eating, spent hours whispering on the phone, pacing around the house, deleting apps, reinstalling them. She changed her passwords again, locked her laptop, started checking the mailbox every hour like she expected another bomb to drop. I didn't interfere. I didn't offer comfort. I just watched, because there was nothing left to salvage. And this time, I wasn't going to be her cleanup crew. She wasn't the victim of a one-night mistake. She was the architect of something much worse. And the wreckage? It was finally falling on her. You know what they never tell you about betrayal? It changes your instincts. You stop reacting. You start calculating. By the time she was unraveling in front of me, I wasn't angry anymore. Not like I used to be. That firestorm. The urge to scream, confront, break things. It had passed. Now there was just a silence in me, vast and cold, like a field after the snow falls. You can see everything, every track, every lie. Nothing is hidden anymore. I watched her scramble for control, deleting messages, calling unknown numbers, checking her email every 30 seconds. She was in damage control mode. The PR pro finally caught in her own scandal. But this time there was no press release. No statement to spin. Just fear. She thought someone was going to expose her. She was right. She just thought it would be me. And that's what made it so perfect. Because I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I didn't even say I knew. That gave me power. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I wanted to understand her. And in that stillness, I came to one chilling conclusion. She never thought she'd get caught. She didn't love that man. She didn't want to run away with him. She just loved being wanted, being admired, being the woman who could command a room and keep a husband at home while someone else waited in the shadows. She liked the attention. That's all I ever was to her. Attention. So I decided to give her some of mine. Not in rage. Not in heartbreak. In facts. I spent a full week preparing. Not plotting revenge. Just documenting truth. The video footage, the group chat *TS, the backup phone logs, the hidden photo folders, I compiled everything into a secure drive. Labeled. Dated. Organized. Not for her. For someone else. Because once I realized what kind of man she'd chosen, what kind of game they were playing, I knew there had to be more to the story. I found him easily. LinkedIn, Facebook, public PR events. His name was Daniel. He worked for one of her firm's top clients, a high-value account that had put her on the map. So not just an affair, a liability. Worse, a conflict of interest. It wasn't just infidelity anymore. It was professional misconduct. That's when I made my decision, the move she never saw coming. I didn't send the files to her boss. I didn't leak them to the press. I sent them to Daniel's wife. It took 2 hours of digging to find her email. A personal address tied to a charity gala they had co-hosted last spring. She was listed as the head of a children's nonprofit. Public enough to be found. Private enough that I knew she'd read it personally. The email was short. No attachments. No threats. Just words. Subject, you deserve to know. Body, hi. You don't know me, but I believe our lives have crossed in a way neither of us asked for. I've attached nothing here because I don't want this to feel like a spectacle. Just facts. Your husband, Daniel, has been involved with my wife for several months. I have proof, dates, messages, video. I don't want anything from you. I'm not interested in drama or revenge. I just figured, if anyone deserves the full truth, it's you. If you ever need to talk, I'll answer. I read it twice. Then I hit send. That was it. I didn't hear back right away, and I didn't expect to. But 3 hours later, her name appeared in my inbox. Her reply was 4 words. Thank you. I suspected. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling something click into place. She had suspected, just like I had. And now she knew. No fire, no fury, just confirmation. That was the moment I understood. My wife wasn't special. She wasn't unique. She wasn't even clever. She was just one in a long line of people who confuse attention with affection, who collect admirers like trophies and think loyalty is something weak people cling to, who think the rules don't apply to them because they know how to lie with a smile. She wasn't a wife. She was a mirror reflecting back only what people wanted to see. And I'd spent years mistaking the reflection for the real thing. Later that night, I walked into the living room. She was on the couch again, scrolling, phone tight in her grip like it was keeping her grounded. "You okay?" I asked casually, almost kindly. She looked up, eyes *T. "Yeah, just tired. Always tired." I sat on the opposite end of the couch and just watched her. For the first time, really watched her. The tension in her shoulders, the subtle twitch of her left thumb, the way her lips pressed into a line when she got nervous. She didn't know. Not yet. But she would. I wasn't interested in revenge. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I just didn't want to carry the weight of her choices anymore. So I stopped. Stopped shielding her. Stopped lying to myself. Stopped imagining a version of her that didn't exist. She hadn't destroyed me. She'd just revealed herself. And the fallout? That belonged to her. We still lived under the same roof, but everything had shifted. No more shared bed, no more casual touches, no more pretending. She moved to the couch without being asked. Like even she knew her space in my life had vanished. I started therapy. Took a remote cybersecurity job out in Portland, higher pay, clean slate. One morning, I poured coffee, sat across from her and said, "I'm moving to Portland, leaving Friday." She looked up, stunned. "Is there someone else?" she asked, barely above a whisper. I stared at her for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, me." No fight followed. No tears. Just silence. I think in her own way she knew. I wasn't running. I was returning to myself. I left that Friday. Took only what was mine. No speech. No closure. Just packed. Locked the door, and disappeared into the morning. She texted later. I didn't reply. Not out of hate, just peace. The new apartment had sunlight, stillness. My name on the lease, not ours. My life again. She'd gone to that New Year's party alone, laughing with strangers, chasing something I never withheld. And in the end, she came back to an empty house. I didn't destroy her. I didn't save her either. I just stopped being the one who tried. And for the first time, I wasn't broken. I was free.